What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well. Chanel has just come out with some new eyeshadows. These are the Ombre Essentielle Longwear Single Eyeshadows. I have 4 of the shades from the range to review for you all today. We are going to be doing swatches. I have daylight applications with every shade that I picked up. And of course, I will be sharing with you guys my completely honest thoughts and some fun comparisons at the end. So if you want to hang out with me today and maybe figure out if these are worth picking up, then keep watching. Let's get into this review. I will show you guys some close-ups of these new single shadows from Chanel. These are going to be retailing for $40 USD. I've been told that this line is permanent. I'm sure they're going to be coming out with other limited edition shades, maybe in future seasonal collections, but for now, these are permanent. They have a beautiful array of colors. They have neutrals. They have pops of color that I'm going to be showing you guys today. And there are 3 finishes also that I will be demoing. We have the matte, the satin, and the metallic. All of these finishes are actually on my eyes today. These I purchased at the boutique. They are going to be available online, so I'll have a shopping guide that is linked down below as these pop up at different retailers, which I'm sure they will. You guys can check that out. These have an 18-month shelf life. They are made in France. They are also talc-free, and they also seem to be fragrance-free as well. I don't detect any fragrance, which is nice because I don't really like to put perfume on my eyelids. And by the way, if you happen to be new here, I just want to take a quick second to say hi, welcome. My name is Sophia, and I help you shop for luxury. I am so passionate about luxury, beauty, and fashion, so I talk about it here a lot on my channel. I do a lot of fun and helpful guides, lots of new luxury makeup reviews just like this one. So if you love luxury, hit that subscribe button to join our fam. We would love to have you. And as a quick reminder, friends, any of the makeup that is on my face today, along with where you can shop for these new single eyeshadows, it's all going to be listed in the description box down below. I try to keep the links as updated as possible, and also they are affiliate links most of the time. So when you shop through them, I do earn a small commission that supports my channel, full disclosure. And with that, let's get back to the rest of this Chanel review. Now for the good part, let me show you the shades that I picked up. The first one that I have here is number 232 Lilas Poudre. This is going to be in the matte formula, and this is a gorgeous, beautiful springtime lilac. The second shade that I got is number 220 Blanc Pearl. I know a lot of you guys were interested in this one. It's definitely one of the more unique colors in the range. This is going to be in the satin formula. It is a beautiful, fresh, not too frosty, pearly white, but as you can see, it's also kind of like a soft duochrome. It has a little bit of a pink shift to it. This next one is for all of my neutral lovers out there. This is number 236 Brun Talpa, and this is also going to be in the satin formula. Does this not look like the perfect one and done cool tone neutral brown shadow? I just knew so many of you all would be interested in this one, so we're also going to be playing around with this one today as our neutral option. And then lastly, I picked up one in the metallic formula. This is number 222 Jade Facette, and as you can see, this is going to have a little bit more sparkle and impact to it compared to the satin formula. This shade is just so beautiful for spring. You guys can see I have it on my eyes right now. It is a beautiful, I guess I would call this a seafoam green, and there's a little bit of maybe like a golden shift to it. Really beautiful. Can't wait to show you guys how this applies to the eyes. All right, let's get these shadows on my eyes. I'm going to kick things off with my favorite shade, which is Blanc Pearl. This is the one that is that pearly white with a beautiful iridescent pink shift. I'm going to apply this all over the eyes so you guys can see what it just looks like as a one and done, but then I will also show you how you can use this to kind of pair alongside the other shades, kind of like as a topper. So let's first go in with this all over the eye. Now this one is described as a satin, so it is very smooth. I would say there's still like just a little bit of sparkle in this, but it's not very chunky. And this particular shade is not as powdery as some of the others. You guys will see the matte shades have a little bit more powderiness to them. And this is just a good one to kind of like brighten the eye. I find that with a lot of maybe more pigmented shadows from other brands, maybe indie brands, for example, the duochromes can sometimes be, I don't want to say they're hard to work with. The formulas are really great. They're very intense, but sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to do a one and done look with something that has a super strong shift. And what I like about this one is that it just gives a nice kind of brightness to the eyes. If you have a deeper skin tone, I think this will certainly pop a lot more and you'll see the shift a little bit more. And if you layer it on top of other shadows, you will see the shift a lot more. I'm just going to use the little applicator here to apply that to the inner corner. The little sponge applicators, they work a lot better than you would think. especially for these types of like toppers and single shadows. I haven't gotten any fallout with this shade when I was testing it. Let me get some mascara on and I will show you the final look with Blanc Pearl. And here we are. Here is the final look with Blanc Pearl. Comment down below and let me know what you think. Definitely one of the more unique shades in the range just because you get a little bit of that duochrome shift, but it's not too strong. And because it's not too glittery, I think it lends itself well to an all over one and done shade. Now we're gonna get into the rest of the shades and I will come back to this one to show you how you can use it as a topper and how you can use it to kind of brighten up some of the other looks. Let's get into it. Next up, I'm gonna go into the beautiful lilac shade. This one is called Lilas Poudre. Now this is in the matte formula, so keep that in mind. There's not gonna be any shimmer in this. And I do notice that the matte shades have just a little bit more kick up in the pan. So I do recommend tapping off your brush. I'm using a fluffier brush. This is the BK Beauty 206. And you'll notice if you use something fluffier, you will get more of like a wash of color. These are very finely milled and blendable shadows. And see that? You can easily get that all over the lid. I would be careful about using maybe a super sticky base or primer because these are so finely milled. You might find if you kind of dip back and forth between your primed eye and the compact here, you might get a little bit of hard pan. I just use a tiny little bit of concealer. You can slightly powder whatever primer or concealer you have on beforehand if you are maybe a little bit worried about the formula looking patchy or getting hard pan or anything like that. It's just something that I find we need to be careful about when you have something that is like this silky and finely milled. See, very soft. And you know what? Let me take a more dense brush and kind of show you how much you can build this up if you wanted to. It's not gonna be the most pigmented shadow ever, like it's Chanel, but you can build it up a little bit. I just recommend using a dense brush like this and then tapping it on like I'm doing right now. It's a very smooth formula, makes the eyelids look extremely, extremely smooth. And here's the final look with Lilas Poudre. Comment down below and let me know what you think. Definitely one of the more colorful, more vibrant spring types of shades in the collection. And while it is soft, you can still see the purple. I still think it's pigmented enough where you're getting a pop of color, and you can also use this as an accent shade. Now, as I promised before, I am gonna go in with the Blanc Pearl and just show you what this looks like layered over this shade, because these are the two that I've really been enjoying wearing together. So you can go in with the Blanc Pearl, and I think it's because it has that pink shift. It looks so good with the lilac color. So that's what it looks like when you kind of pop it in the inner corner and then melt it into the lilac. Kind of see the difference there. And then let me also show you what it looks like when you layer it on top, because the lilac is a matte shade. So I don't know, I like all matte looks, but I love a little bit of sparkle, especially in the inner corner and the center of the lid. And see how this just gives it a beauty. I put a little bit too much on my applicator. There we go. It gives such a beautiful like iridescence to the center that is just a little bit more special, a little bit more my style. And I feel like when you layer this shade on top of the colored ones, you can definitely appreciate the shift in the finish just a little bit more. Let me put a little bit. So here is the other final look with the Blanc Pearl layered on top. Let me know what you think of this. Do you feel like that's something that you would do, or would you prefer more of like an all matte simple eye? Let me know down below. Let's take a quick little break from the colored shadows and go into the beautiful Brun Talpa. This is gonna be the cool toned brown shade, and this one is also called a satin. So it's gonna be a little bit smoother and softer. There's no glitter particles in this one. And I just knew I had to pick this one up because I feel like a lot of you are gonna be interested in this shade because it's soft, it's everyday, it's neutral, it's cool toned, it is absolutely beautiful. Take a look at that. So smooth on the eye. I feel like this would look really good with like some brown eyeliner, smudged a little bit along the lash line or winged out a little bit. This one is not as powdery as the last one that we used. As I mentioned like 2 or 3 times now, the matte shades do have a little bit more kickback. And here we are, friends. This is the final look with Brun Talpa. Let me know what you think of this shade. It's not super unique, but it is very beautiful. It is very great for every day. Beautiful one and done. You really don't need anything more except this shade and a little bit of mascara, and I bet it would pair really well with a lot of the other neutral shades that they have in this line. And finally, are we ready for the Jade Facette? This beautiful light green, and this one is in the metallic formula. So you guys are gonna see it's just a little bit more sparkly than the satin. Nothing that's gonna cause a ton of fallout, but you do get a little bit more glimmer from the metallic shades. I do recommend tapping off your brush just in case. Ooh, see how that pops just a little bit more than the last one? And I think that if you put down a little bit of primer, you can build these up a little bit more. I just put down a fresh coat of concealer so it could stick a little bit since this is just a little bit more sparkly. Very fresh, very fun, very green for spring. This is definitely one of the more unique colors, and a lot of you told me that you were interested in this one and the lilac one specifically, so I just knew that I had to pick it up. Because this is so shimmery, I also think that this would layer over, you know, just like a matte brown that maybe you already have in your collection, or a bronzer in the crease, and then you could pop this on. You could put it sort of more so in the inner corner as well. This doesn't really have much of a shift, maybe like a little bit. Maybe a little bit of a gold shift. I will apply some mascara and I will be right back. And here is the final look with Jade Facette. What do you think of this shade? What do you think of the metallic formula versus the satin? It's very, very subtle, but I do like the little extra bit of sparkle that we get from this particular shade. And just like I did with the lavender, I do want to show you guys what this looks like with the pearl shade, because I just feel like they go together so well. This adds the perfect little inner corner highlight. This is so spring to me. So spring, but still subtle. I feel like it's a great way to wear color. I'm gonna add a little bit to the center of the eye as well, just like we did with the last look, so you can see kind of how it layers on top. And you know what, while we're here, I kind of want to see what it looks like when I layer on a little bit of the lilac shade. I'm thinking maybe using this as a little pop of color, maybe just like in the outer corner right here. I feel like I was a little bit too light-handed there. Yes, just a very, very little pop of color, nothing too crazy. I don't think that this color is dark enough that you could use it as a liner, so I didn't really attempt to do that, but I think right here on the outer corner, that would be a very pretty little touch. All right, so here is the look with all 3 of those shadows combined. I think this is a really beautiful, fun, soft spring look. Let me know in the comments section, is this something that you think you would wear? I particularly like the combination, and I feel like I can see each of the shades very, very clearly. I think it is beautiful. All right, now that you've seen the swatches, now that you've seen the demos, I want to take a couple minutes to talk about the formula and just overall, do I think that these are worth it? Because they're $40 a piece. That's pretty expensive, especially if you buy 2. That's $80. So that's a lot to pay for 2 eyeshadow shades. So I'm going to share with you my thoughts, and then at the very end, if you want to stick around, I will do some comparisons with each of the shades that I showed you today. In general, if you couldn't already tell from the demos, I think that the formula is very, very nice. It's not going to be the most pigmented formula ever because it's Chanel. It's not going to be the most glittery formula ever because it's Chanel. It's going to be a little bit more subtle and elegant, but I do think that the formula is incredibly finely milled, silky, blendable, easy to work with. It's one of the better talc-free formulas that I've tried in a while. It kind of reminds me of the NARS talc-free Laguna bronzers. I know those are bronzers and they're not eyeshadows, but it's kind of like that same very silky, very blendable formula, except we're just applying this one to the eyes. As I mentioned during the demos, the metallic and satin shades, they're a little bit less powdery, like you don't get as much kick up in the pan when you use those, but regardless, like still very easy to work with. They're not going to be like high shine, super creamy, like high impact glitter types of shadows. It's not going to be like a Pat McGrath eyeshadow single, if you get what I'm saying. But I still feel like they have really nice pigmentation. They have great longevity. They don't crease on my eyelids. They don't emphasize any of the dryness that I'm prone to getting on my eyelids. I think the formula is very, very nice. They do not swatch very well, as you can see right here. Most of these newer talc-free formulas, they just don't really swatch very well, which is why I do the demos in daylight for you all, because, you know, sometimes we see swatches online and we completely write off the shades or we write off the formula thinking it's not going to be very good, but then it actually looks really beautiful on the eyes. So I think if you are a fan of the style of Chanel makeup, then you're probably really going to like these. That being said, should you be buying a single shadow for $40? Personally, when I'm buying single shadows, that purchase is going to fall in one of two buckets. Bucket number one is going to be neutral, easy, everyday, elegant, one and done styles of shadows, because if I'm going to be paying the $40, I want it to be something that I'm actually going to use. I don't want it to be like an impulse buy that I never reach for. Maybe this will go in my everyday makeup bag, something like that. I think in that way, it definitely can be justified. That being said, if you already have a bunch of eyeshadow sticks from like Victoria Beckham and Laura Mercier, something like that, if you already have a lot of other neutral eyeshadows, maybe you consistently reach for like the same cool tone neutral shades all the time. I know that I'm guilty of that. Then I don't think that this is something that you need to absolutely rush to get. Bucket number two are single shadows where I feel like the color or maybe even the finish is underrepresented in my collection, and I just don't really feel like buying a full palette when all I want is that one color, or maybe it is a shadow where I really think it's going to pair really well with the other palettes that I already have in my collection. It's going to allow me to kind of level up that palette so I can create more looks. This particular color here, Blanc Pearl, this one is my favorite because, as you saw in the demo, it just works so beautifully with other shadows. If you have any other palette from Chanel or any other brand, you can use this in the inner corner as a topper, and it just takes the whole look to another level. So for me, you know, for $40, if that's all I'm looking for, then I definitely think it is worth it. I also have gotten so many questions over the past couple of months as a lot of brands have been launching palettes that have kind of fun iridescent toppers, pops of pastel. I've been getting a lot of questions, you know, Sophia, where can I buy just that one color? And especially if you're a fan of the Chanel formula, if that's your favorite, if that's your go-to and you trust it, then just buying, you know, one single shadow for that one shade that you wanted, that might be a really good solution rather than buying an entire palette or looking for one from another brand. That being said, be honest with yourself, okay? You know, I know a lot of people are interested in this lilac shade because it looks interesting, it looks fun, but realistically, you know, ask yourself, are you going to use this bright purple shade all the time? Are you okay maybe only using it like a couple times a year for $40? Just be honest with yourself. This is a beautiful shade, but it is my least favorite one because I just know I'm not going to use this one as much. I don't use matte shadows that much, and if I wasn't here on YouTube reviewing these things for you all, I probably wouldn't have picked this up. I probably would have just picked up the pearly one and maybe the Jade Facette. Those two are my favorites, and those are the two, once again, if I wasn't reviewing these here on YouTube, those would be the ones that I would pick up because they're the most like fun and unique, and they also are just beautiful wearable looks for me for every day in the spring and summer. And with that, we're gonna get into some comparisons. I'm gonna start off with the Blanc Pearl shade since this one is my favorite, and it also is the most, I guess you could call it unique, at least for Chanel. And when I swatched this, friends, I just couldn't stop thinking I have something that is very similar to this, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. And then the other day I was on a Zoom call and it came to me. It is a shade in the Danessa Myricks. Which one is this? The Lightwork Volume 3, the Mini Lightwork Volume 3. This is such a good palette if you just want a little taste of duochromes. Sadly, it is always sold out, so I'll try and link it down below if I can find it. Anyway, stop talking, Sophia. Strawberry Moon, this shade right here, is my favorite one in this palette, and it definitely reminded me of the Chanel one. Yes, yes, it's not exact, okay? You can see how the Chanel formula, it just has a beautiful softness to it. A lot of you enjoy that. I like soft, I also like bold, but I feel like this is a good example at how this finish is just so beautifully soft and smooth and satin, but you still kind of get that cool duochrome effect that you get from the Danessa Myricks. I'm also going to swatch the white shade here from the Rivage palette because this is one of those toppers that so many of you guys liked. That's going to be more of like a true white, and the shift is more blue and beige. So not exact, but in the same realm. That shade as well, it's more glittery. It's more of a topper shade. It has a little bit more fallout. I don't get fallout from this one that is in the single formula. Right here I have Poudre Venetian from the Byzance collection. I'm sorry I don't have Poudre Cristal. I know I'm gonna get questions about it. I'm sorry guys, I didn't snatch that one. Okay, so this one has more of like a greeny type of shift. Look at this beautiful array of frosty goodness I have on my arm right now. Right here I have the new Guerlain palette for this spring. This is Aura Glow, and I thought we would swatch this beautiful shade. That one is probably the most white out of the ones we've swatched so far, but it is nice and smooth and kind of non-glittery like the Chanel one. I also brought out the new Tom Ford Emerald Dusk. I thought maybe we could swatch this white shade. This is not going to be very duochrome. Oh, it doesn't. These don't swatch very well. This is a little bit more subtle. So yeah, this is a little bit more pigmented. Oh, I also have the Dior Mimi Rose palette because I get a lot of questions about this shade right here. This one feels so much creamier and more pigmented. Yeah, see, that is much frostier and it has a very strong blue shift. Next, we're gonna do the lilac shade. Do a nice little swatch right there. And I definitely wanted to compare this to the purple shade in the Summer Jean palette from Guerlain. This was their limited edition one from last year. I was checking this out last night. These are actually really, really close. I know a lot of you guys have this palette, so don't buy the lilac shade from Chanel if you have this palette. It's gonna be basically the same thing. Also right here, I have the Dior Pastel Glow, and we're gonna swatch that purple shade next. Gosh, all these brands coming out with so many good pastel palettes. This one is very, very soft. It's like a pretty similar tone, but believe it or not, the Chanel ones are more pigmented. The other one that I thought of is this eyeshadow stick from Victoria Beckham. This is in the shade Macaron. Okay, yeah, I figured this one would be much pinker, but figured it was worth showing you guys because for me, whether it's a single powder eyeshadow or an eyeshadow stick, it's all kind of used in the same way, at least for me. And next we have Jade Facette. Hopefully I'm pronouncing these okay, guys. I really wanted to compare this one with the center shade that is featured in the Dior Pastel Glow palette. I called this shade blue in my review. I was like, it's more of a blue, and then all of you guys were like, no, Sylvia, that's a mint green, that's a mint green. Okay, guys, whatever you say, it looks a little bit more white compared to the Jade Facette. I would say if you see it on its own, it looks a little bit more mint. It's much frostier. The texture is probably like a little bit less glittery and sparkly than this one from Chanel. When I was looking at Jade Facette, I thought to myself, there's gotta be a Suku shadow that I have that looks very similar to that, and I think I found it right here. This one, it was called Sumimi Dori. Obviously, it's limited edition like so many other Suku palettes, but if you have this one, I thought it would be super fun to compare. Okay, so that one's a little bit more vibrant. I just ran over to my vanity because I realized that I probably should compare this shade with the new Seafoam liner from Victoria Beckham Beauty because it's very similar in shade. Someone was asking me, would these pair well together? I mean, personally, I don't think I would. It would be a little bit too cool of a look for me and my skin tone. I think it would be a little bit too much seafoam green. I prefer to go in with this liner with like something a little bit more like white or gold, something that contrasts a little bit. But hey, you know, that could be a cute look. Don't let me tell you otherwise. That could be a cute look. I'll show you here the comparison and you can decide for yourself. I'm like sitting here looking for the rest of my comparison palettes and they're right there. Okay, now we can do comparisons with the Brun Talpa. I brought out a couple of cool tone neutral palettes to demonstrate. I have the Tom Ford Nude Dip. Maybe the darkest shade here will be somewhat similar. It's a little bit too dark. I feel like all of these are going to be slightly more dark or slightly more like gray. Another popular palette is the Chanel Tissé Rivoli. This one tends to lean a little more kind of mauvey, but I don't know, we shall see. Maybe this shade. It's very similar, guys. Like, if you have this palette, I don't think you need to get Brun Talpa. As beautiful as it is, it's a little bit more purpley. I'll give it that. Here, let's do this other shade right here. Okay, so that's a little bit more brown. It's not exact, but I think you guys know what I mean. Chanel Tweed Brunette Rose limited edition. Let's do two of these shades. These are gonna be lighter and softer. The Chanel Le Beige palette in the shade medium. I'm thinking this one. These are a little hard to swatch because my fingers are a bit chubby for these pans. Okay, so that's a little bit grayer. I think that this whole palette, you know, like this one's a little bit more brown. Let's try this one. Okay, similar vibes, but not exact. I also brought out two eyeshadow sticks. Right here, I have the Bobbi Brown Smoky Topaz. I think that this is one of the more popular shades. Let's do it right over here. That one is a little bit more brown. And then finally, I have Shroom from Victoria Beckham. This is one of the newer ones she just launched. I have a feeling this is gonna be kind of similar. Okay, so that one is also a little bit more brown and it has a bit of a just slightly violet base. So there you go, guys. Same, but different. Once again, this is the Chanel Brun Talpa. And that is all I have for you today, friends. I hope that you found this video helpful and enjoyable. If you like this video, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts on these. I'm very, very curious. Did I talk you into them? Did I talk you out of them? Do you think that they are incredibly overpriced? I would love to hear everything that you have to say. Subscribe if you haven't already. And with that, friends, I hope that you see some beauty in your day, and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye.